Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider, KSL Sports. Joined tonight, as I am every Sunday or Monday night, whenever we record, the fellas, Tyson, Cam. Guys, how we doing?
We're good.
We're good.
Just settled in at this point,
Yeah,
Settled.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just
Embracing the comforts of a bad football team.
It's tough, man.
Cam, I think we were talking during the game, the three of us. I think you said something about it, something oddly just settling about like knowing your team's bad.
Yeah, there's something, there's some joy to be had in going into a Saturday morning, just like, they're gonna lose.
No expectations.
Yeah. Like especially after the BYU, like the BYU game was the last one that I was really holding out for, like, maybe they get up for it. And they did. And, for all the reasons we talked about last week, almost, and maybe should have won. But like, after that, it's just like, I don't know. Whatever this season has in the bag for us now, like, let's see. Give us your best shot.
Yeah.
Give us your best shot.
No, don't. No, don't, dude. If the universe hasn't given us its best shot by now, golly, I'm scared, terrified to find out what it is.
This week.
That is a scary, scary thought, given everything that we've endured this season. And oh man.
I feel like it's spilling over a little bit because I think the injury bug just spilled over from Utah football to me. I strained my Achilles on Friday.
Oh,
yeah,
dropping like flies.
I know,
dude. It's getting. I
wasn't gonna say anything, but I have a Liz Frank.
Miles had a fever of 102 this morning, so it's getting around, man. This is crazy. It's getting all of us. This is nuts. Oh man. All right. So Utah coming off a pretty tough loss, 49-24 at the hands of Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Coach Prime. The Buffs are always frauds, but man.
Ooh, I don't know.
Man.
I don't know. I don't know if this year
is it time to bury that.
They might be beating the allegations this year. I mean, they still have. Listen, I think that they've shown that they're not a perfect football team. They've still got a couple losses. That Nebraska game is going to haunt them until whatever happens to their team at the end of the season. But like but I don't think I think Kansas State's a better football team than Nebraska personally. And so I think, and just the way they looked in that Nebraska game, it was just, they just had nothing, absolutely nothing. And even their bright spots didn't look great. Like that was probably Shedeur's worst game of the season. And he, did not have his worst game of the season against Utah. And I think they may have seen what I said about them being fraudulent, and they took that personally. That's what they needed. No, I think honestly, it's a surprise to me. I thought they would be better than they were last year. I didn't quite think they would be what they are now. There's no getting around it. Travis Hunter is maybe the best player in the country. And there's also no getting around it. Shedeur Sanders is a great quarterback. And if you don't think so, you're lying to yourself. And it wasn't just what he did against Utah. He's had that kind of year.
Yeah. And, Kyle Whittingham said as much after the game. This is the best team that Utah has faced. And, adding my opinion to that, I completely agree that, this team with Shedeur Sanders operating the way that he did with Travis Hunter and just his unbelievable talent, that catch that he made, in the red zone, like that happened right in front of us in the press box, and just you saw it develop, and he went up over everybody. It was just an incredible catch. The play he made on the reverse, I was on the field, happened right in front of me, on that sideline, and just again, the talent, the ability, the know-how I think is what I'm referring to here, but just the confidence that he has and knowing that he can make plays is so special because it's truly unique. I remember listening to, a draft podcast that talked about, there's something about a player that gets into the end zone a lot. It speaks to their it's just a confidence that they have, a comfort level they have with it. You like players that score touchdowns because it speaks to them knowing how to do it, right? It's not like a skill but you just know that this guy knows how to produce. And Travis Hunter, man, both sides of the ball, he just knows how to make plays, and that he's got a God-given ability that is truly special. So, I was thoroughly impressed with him. The only thing that I was more impressed by was just the general atmosphere at Folsom Field. The last two trips there was quite the opposite. It was dead. You could sit anywhere you wanted to in that stadium. The last two times that Utah was there, and man, that was not the case at all on Saturday. The place was packed to the brim. The energy, the confidence, the belief that fans had in the program, in their team, in their guys was just it was amazing to see that. And it's a credit to Coach Prime and the culture that he's brought there, the belief that he's brought there. We all disagreed with how he went about things and how he talked about things, but man, he's got that program playing really good football. And I again agree completely with Kyle Whittingham's assessment that was the best team Utah's faced this year.
Yeah, I mean, and it's easy to look at Shedeur and Travis and kind of use that to maybe take away from the larger improvement of the team. They're just two guys, and they are both phenomenal, and will both be first-round draft picks. And that doesn't win you 7 football games. That doesn't get you to 8-2.
Right.
They're
right. I mean, they had them
10-win year.
They had them both last year.
Yeah, but I mean that's mostly just to say, like, as good as those two are, they are improved everywhere. Maybe the only place that they're not dramatically improved is offensive line still. And frankly, I still think they're a little bit better there. There wasn't a lot of room to go down there. But so even their defense, granted, they were playing Utah. Every defense looks great against Utah this year. But like their defensive line looked way better than they've looked in the past. They were decent at DB last year. They weren't great, but their front seven were just so bad. And they are so much better this season. I mean, and score isn't everything, obviously. But this season, they've only had, I think, 2 games where they've allowed over 30 points. I'm looking at it right now. 1 game where they've allowed over 30 points. Last season, they had 8 games where they allowed over 30 points, and they had 5 games where they allowed 40 points. They're just not doing that this season. It's a huge improvement on that side. And so it's like, say what you want about, maybe how Dion has done it. But I think it's pretty undeniable that he's done it. That Colorado program was in discussions for the worst college football team in history when he showed up. And now they're probably the Big 12 favorites. It's pretty dramatic and frankly impressive.
Yeah, the biggest credit for me, like watching the game, is credit to Warren Sapp. Because like you said, the improvement on the defensive line has been phenomenal. And
most of that Mohawk game, though, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, right.
So this game, that's pretty incredible.
And
dude, he's small.
Again,
Warren Sapp is small. I always thought he was a big. He is actually
he's a little guy.
Small. Yeah, he's a little
wide
guy.
He's wide.
Yeah,
wide.
He's
wide.
short.
He's short.
Yes.
But I mean, how many guys do you see that were really good NFL players that try out the coaching thing that doesn't necessarily work out? I think this is his first coaching job.
That's a good question.
If I'm not mistaken,
I'm sure he's done. I'm sure he's done coaching, here and there, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think this is his first legitimate coaching position.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, this is his first job. Officially, on a competitive football team, and not camps or maybe coaching little league or like a high school thing or something.
Right.
But yeah, like, I mean, phenomenal job by him. And like to see one of the things too is the one thing you do want to see, especially out of a defensive line coach, is just how like into it he was, I guess, on the sidelines, and how like hyped he was. And you could see how much the players like him and love him and want to play for him. That's such a huge part of coaching that goes kind of unseen.
Yep.
By a lot of people. So yeah. Credit to him.
And to your point, Tyson, don't look now, but Colorado leads the Big 12 in sacks with 33. Mm-hmm. They've had, they had 4 against Utah. They had 7 the previous week against Texas Tech. They had 1 against Cincinnati, and then 7 against Arizona and 4 against Kansas State. So they've certainly figured something out.
Sacks is insane.
That's insane. Yep. That's pretty crazy. So a credit to that. They have genuinely improved, and this isn't turning into a Colorado podcast. This is not.
It sounds like it though.
No, I know. It's fun to talk about though. Jeez.
If I didn't hate them so much, there's a lot of things to like about that program, man. Like Boulder's a great place. Like you said, Folsom Field, the atmosphere there is incredible. Colorado's uniform game is on point this season, I think, and most seasons. But
outside of the mountain design thing they've got, I'm with you.
I don't hate it. I'll be honest. I like the thin
it,
lines. And I know that mountains on jerseys are a trigger.
It's a sore subject.
Yeah, but I certainly like theirs more than I liked Utah's.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But I'd still hate them.
Yeah, no, but like the gold. Like the gold accents on all their stuff is like, and they didn't really have it in their uniforms against Utah, but yeah, man, I think if I didn't hate them so bad, there's a lot of reasons to like them.
Teams with gold, for whatever reason, we're drawn to them. Notre Dame, now Colorado, the teams that truly embrace the gold color scheme, gold in their color scheme. We're just
UCF. Don't get your hopes up.
I don't know. Their uniforms are pretty sweet too, though.
Georgia Tech,
I don't know.
they've added
dollars
gold
to
to
Colorado
that.
uniforms.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's look a little clean with that gold.
One of my favorite uniforms is Georgia Tech when they go blue, when they do the blue uniforms.
Ooh, I like the white.
I do. I mean, I do too. But like again, like as a uniform connoisseur, if you will, contrasting colors, like the contrast between a navy blue and a gold just hits so much better than white and Vegas gold. Like,
okay,
you got to have contrast.
Fair. While we're kind of going back to the Dion thing, though, one thing I want to mention too is like there's so much speculation that I see about Dion and like what's he gonna do when Travis and Shedeur leave? Is he just gonna take off? Is he gonna go take another job somewhere? One, I don't think he's gonna just jump to somewhere. I don't think there's any obvious answers where he would go, and I think frankly, I think Colorado's willing to pay him if that's what he wants, and he's doing something there.
Seeing the scene in Boulder and talking to fans, they've talked. It's been crazy there the last 2 years. The economy has blown up, and so I'm sorry to kind of interrupt your point, but if you're an NFL owner, you're almost looking at taking Shedeur Sanders and Coach Prime as a package deal because you want that same sort of impact in your pockets as an owner, right? And so,
I don't know.
Please,
there was a lot of room for improvement when he came to Boulder. I don't know if most NFL towns have that same. But I think and Tyson, you put Florida State in the chat, I think that's I don't think he's got the best feelings for Florida State.
That's true.
I don't know, but Norvell's not going anywhere. He has a $68 million buyout. They just extended him.
That I did not know. Okay, yeah, you got it.
Norvell's not going anywhere for a while. They've got to be bad again. Like they need another really bad season before boosters are going to shell out $50 million or whatever.
They're already donating all the money to the ACC battle, so they're kind of strapped for cash right now.
No, you're good. Yep. All right, you got me.
But again, so he loses his son at quarterback. Now what? They're in the running for very good players and recruits. Mm-hmm. This program is kind of turning the corner. I saw in the news even today, who's the kid who just decommitted from USC, the Julian Lewis.
Oh, did he decommit?
Colorado's in the running. Like you get somebody like that.
Colorado's favorite.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you get somebody like that, and it's not to say that he's going to step in and replace, but it's just like, yeah, Dion is proving that he can build something there. It's more than just Travis and Shedeur like it was last season. And so I don't think there's any reason to think that this is Dion's last year unless news breaks before this comes out. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere.
We'll see. There is legitimate talk of a Dion and Shedeur package with the NFL draft. Maybe the Giants are willing to bring on both. Maybe the Raiders are willing to bring on both. The relationship with Tom Brady and Shedeur is something that, and if you're either one of those programs and you see what Coach Prime has done with the Colorado on the points that we were talking about earlier about how this was the worst team in college football, one of the worst in all of history, and what he's done to turn it around. If you're an owner, a GM, whatever, and you have an opportunity to do that, to bring those two on to potentially change your own culture, like the Giants, like the Raiders, and you've got to think about. I'm just saying.
I
Coach
think
Prime in Las Vegas would be
I see
insane.
what you're saying, but I don't think it's. I genuinely don't think it's as easy in the NFL for a variety of reasons. It's a much harder place to be a head coach.
Yeah,
but also it's ironic because it's easier to turn over a college roster now. It's easier to take a roster and be like, I don't like this culture, get everyone out and bring in our own guys. We just saw him do it in 2 years. You can't do that in the NFL.
Yep. It will be interesting to see how all of this unfolds, to say the least.
I guess I'll caveat that. I don't think he's going anywhere else in college football. And I don't think he's just walking away. I think there's a lot of people who think he's just going to be like, Shadeur's gone, I'm gone. That was fun. Y'all have a good life. Like, no, he's going to do this coaching thing for a while.
I agree with you there. With Utah, let's get back to Utah.
Yeah, seriously.
This is a Buffs podcast now. Utah Buffcast.
The Utah Buffcast. Oh man. That actually sounds really good. The Utah Buffcast.
I don't hate it. Yeah.
I don't hate it either. Man, we might have to embrace the dark side. Just kidding. With Utah, right? So obviously the struggles offensively continued. I thought it was a good sign. Lander Barton starts the game with an interception. You're thinking, hey, all right, maybe Utah's got it. The offense takes the field, and they're able to move the ball. They get in the red zone. They're not able to punch it in, but hey, you steal a possession. You get 3 points. And, from there, I thought there were some, it's unfortunate that, Isaac Wilson has, just kind of the situation that he's in, right? Being sick coming into the game and apparently playing the game with a fever of 102 degrees. That's tough. That's a lot to ask. And obviously, players, there's been a lot of talk about injuries and this sort of thing and why coaches are playing these players. And it's up to the players, first and foremost. They're making the decisions whether they want to play or not. Isaac took precautions. He was sick. They isolated him. He wore a mask on the plane. They did their best to protect the players from getting others sick. And, with that, he went out there, he gave it his best. And, there were a lot of struggles, a lot of issues, but I thought he showed some signs in that second half that, were encouraging. Obviously the big drive that I think went 75 yards, some big time throws, to Carson Ryan a couple times for 23 and 25 yards. And then the throw to Lohner in the end zone, on the post up. So, what do we make of the situation around Wilson? What are we encouraged by? What are we thinking? What are we feeling?
I mean, to be honest, I'm encouraged by the news of his temperature. I don't know if y'all have ever done anything with a fever over 100 degrees. If that's true, and that's wild that he played that football game. It was not his best football game. First half was very tough in particular. Yeah. And I don't know if he settled in the second half as much as I think Colorado played a little bit softer zone coverage, started bringing a little bit fewer guys. He was able to find some spots underneath their zone and really did well once that happened. But doing that with 103 temperature is, I mean, there can't be expectations if that's who you're playing. And again, speaks to the situation in Utah's QB room that's the guy you got to roll out on Saturday, is a guy who has a dangerously high fever almost. That's wild. I think that you have to watch Isaac Wilson in this game and take the good with the bad. You have to understand that Colorado is a much improved defense. That Utah had absolutely no semblance of a ground game because that Colorado front seven is vastly improved, in combination to, frankly, Utah not having a great day on the offensive line, in my opinion, and just not really going back to the run. They didn't commit to it early, even when things weren't going necessarily great. Not that they could sustain many drives in order to do so, but we've seen how difficult it is for the offense to move when they get one dimensional, and they were one dimensional all game. It was I think the running game ended with 31 yards on 30 carries. You can't win a game on the road like that, especially when you got a young, struggling QB. And so seeing what we saw in the third and fourth quarter from Isaac, the one good drive, a couple of other throws there, was great. But Colorado defense is good enough. Your offense is depleted enough. 103 fever on top of that. That's not a great recipe for success for anybody.
Yeah.
No, and the biggest thing with me for the offense, and I agree with you, Cam, is just real subpar offensive line play. It's just nothing. Like you said, the ground game starts and ends with the offensive line, and then also with just really bad timing when it came to the worst plays. Some of the offensive line had, like the third down, third and goal on that first drive. Caleb Lomu got just absolutely obliterated.
It looked like he got stepped on, like his foot got stepped on, like his left foot kind of got caught. I don't know, maybe he tripped.
I just had it up too.
But he got
because I wanted to go into it because I was looking at I wanted to go back and wonder, because I didn't like the play call either. You had not a lot of room and you're running stacked routes to the to the front of the end zone, to the back, but it looked like he wasn't fully ready either. He got off the line a little bit slower, and just, he's just already half a step behind. But just kind of timely things like that, just at the worst times, they just had a bad rep. And that's something you just, there's luck involved in that, but it's something especially in that situation on third and goal, on the opening drive, you to get momentum, you need a touchdown there. And that's a bad time to have that happen.
And that's been a reoccurring theme this, over the last couple games. Most of the season, but especially the last two games where, especially the second half against BYU, where it seemed, Utah would gain a first down, on first down, right, to start a drive. And then, you gain positive yardage on that next series, the next set of downs on first down. You're set up, second and 4, second and 5, second and 6, whatever. And then, you false start, or you get a holding penalty and you move back. And for this offense, as difficult as it's been this year, you can't afford those types of mistakes, right? Where you shoot yourself in the foot and you put yourself in situations that you can't overcome. And that's been a reoccurring theme. So I'm with you there, Tyson. I think that's been an issue. That was an issue in this one. There were multiple situations where, that they hurt themselves with a false start or something like that. And that's been an issue for a lot of these games, which is disappointing.
Especially knowing going into the season, I'm thinking offensive line was going to be one of the strong points of the team. And there's been injuries. I know, Moko's been out and Moko's out for the season. And then I think their cycle, I think they had their fourth right guard this game,
mm-hmm.
Late in the game. Yep. I believe Johnny Maea was playing right guard and they bumped Moai over to the left. Yep. Like I noticed that in a game, and that's gonna bring O-line play down anyway, just because you're playing a position you haven't played. One guy hasn't played it all year; he's been the backup center, and then you got a guy who just came in to play right guard for a couple games, and now he's bumped to left guard. It's really hard to overcome that.
Yep. I thought there were. Again, we referenced the drive in the third quarter with Isaac Wilson making throws. I thought, Tyson, we were talking about this before we hit record, but Tony Jones, put it pretty succinctly in the sense that, the biggest concern with Isaac, to that point of his tweet was that you hadn't seen the signs, you hadn't seen the flashes of potential, and I thought that drive, which came immediately after that tweet, I feel like, because I remember seeing it.
It really did
shortly after, yeah, and which was funny, and so you saw those flashes, right, and you saw the throws. He made quick decisions, great throws, was willing to push the ball down the field, and when he's playing, it felt like he just said, "F it, I'm just going to let it rip." I certainly think that was part of it. He threw a couple interceptions to that point in the game. The first one, it bounces off Munir McClain's hands, and you're just like, man, what in the world? Just the worst bounce it could possibly take, right to Travis Hunter. The second one was, it speaks to his learning curve, right? Cover 2 shell, pre-snap look, and the middle backer drops to the deep middle in a Tampa 2 coverage, and he's right in position to make that interception. And that's the sort of coverage that it's new to him. Probably it shouldn't be at this point, and I think that's what's concerning. But learning to identify what that is going to be pre and post snap, and understanding where to go to make those reads quickly. That's the process we're in. So there are certainly, I think for Isaac, there's a lot of context to take into when evaluating Isaac this season. Anybody making any sort of declaration on his future, I think, we have an idea of what he is, but you have to take into consideration all of the context around the season. And, a lot of blame with how things have gone, fall at the feet of the coaches, and that's how it should be. And I think if they could go back and maybe do things differently, I don't know, maybe they do. If they know that Cam Rising is going to be out for the majority of the season, and perhaps that changes how they view the pecking order. I don't know, but it certainly seems like the plan was to get Isaac Wilson, sporadic playing time throughout the year with Cam playing. And it's clear now that Isaac is he's just not ready to take on this sort of role this early in his career. And you hope that he just continues to work through it, and that Utah is doing all that they can to help him through it.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that can happen, and maybe something to consider, is just these reps are good for him in terms of seeing the game better and getting that speed. We've talked in previous episodes about his biggest kind of, I shouldn't say his biggest fault, and maybe it's fair to say his biggest fault, but just not getting the ball out fast enough, not making those decisions quick enough. And those things will come with time, and just understanding where kind of plays develop, when windows open, when you need to pull the ball down and run, and things like that. The biggest concern I have is him losing the confidence he needs going into his sophomore season because of this season. And I hear and see a lot of the frustration around his play, because he hasn't made a lot of progress from what you would hope to see in from week 4 to now, or week 3 to now. And I think that's fair. I think it's also fair to say, he's 18 years old. He's a true freshman. Yes, we see examples of true freshmen who progress throughout the season and stuff. We would see plenty of other examples of true freshmen who didn't, if more of them played. But also, there's not a ton of true freshmen who are out there playing who are also losing their offensive coordinator in halfway through their first season, and then how much that can shake somebody up. When Tyler Huntley and when Utah quarterbacks were all getting new offensive coordinators every year, we talked about how significant it was that Tyler Huntley was having the same offensive coordinator for the second season in a row, and then how much that was going to help his improvement. Isaac Wilson didn't even have one for a full season. He didn't even have one for 6 games in a row. And so that kind of shakeup is hard for him mentally. I hope that, with some stability with a new OC next year, getting comfortable with a guy over the offseason and in spring and fall camp, I think there's still a ton of improvement that can be made. That freshman to sophomore year is going to be massive for him. I just hope that he doesn't lose the confidence he's going to need in these reps right now, because this is a bad football team right now. And it's partially because of the quarterback situation, but it's not entirely because of the quarterback situation. I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about who Isaac Wilson is going to be.
There's 2 things I keep coming back to with Isaac, and the first one, and I trust the coaching staff to do the right thing here, is, again, there's 2 ways you can go about this as with what Isaac's going through. Is one is getting on him and, maybe tearing him down a little bit, like, you got to be better, blah blah blah. In this situation, you gotta know that he's not going to be great. Again, he's in a really bad situation. He's a 18-year-old true freshman. You gotta help him not lose that confidence. You gotta bring him up. You gotta coach him up, and you gotta make sure that he still retains the confidence that makes good quarterbacks great quarterbacks. The other thing is, again, there's so much that goes into playing quarterback and being a good quarterback, and a lot of it is completely out of your control as a player, and that comes down to how the rest of the team's playing and how the coaching staff is handling it and how the offensive play calling is. And as we've seen a lot of the times with Isaac, is the play calling hasn't been great, and the play around him hasn't been great either, especially in this last game. Like we said, the running game just was non-existent, and when the running game's non-existent, it's near impossible to really get going as a quarterback, again, unless you have insanely good pass play calling, like we see, and talented quarterback like we watched Shedeur. Like, Colorado's run game is awful. It's always been awful. It's not going to get any better, but they can do that because they have Shedeur Sanders back there, and they have play calling that has these really good receivers and fast receivers and skilled receivers getting the ball in the open field and getting the ball where they need it to be. And hopefully, I hope that that's going to be a positive going forward. I just want people to understand that it's not just go out there and play quarterback. Like, there's so much that goes into a quarterback succeeding. All I can do is hope that that's going to get taken care of going forward with Isaac.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big focal point, at least for me, the last 2 weeks of the season, is figuring out what exactly is being done to help promote Isaac Wilson's development and growth. There's a lot of little things that Isaac can do to improve his performance. You guys have mentioned it, getting the ball out quickly. There were a number of opportunities against Colorado, to get the ball out on a quick crosser and allow his receiver to make a play with the, after the catch. There were some throws, on those routes, but they were inaccurate. And so improving the accuracy there, there's just a lot of little things for Isaac that he can improve that would help the offense tremendously. I think there's obviously a lot of, coming from a Corner Canyon system, there's a lot of comfort, in terms of they probably saw a lot of soft zone coverage because they didn't want to get beat over the top all the time. And, Corner Canyon loves to push the ball vertically. And you see that in Isaac's play, right? The throws up the seam to Carson Ryan were tremendous throws. And that speaks to just where he's comfortable, where he's at his best as a quarterback. And that's exciting. But now you've got to bring the rest of your game. You can't be, you don't need to worry about getting the ball out quickly. Just get it out quickly to your playmakers on those quick crossing routes. Take the easy stuff, right? Don't be afraid and don't be ashamed of taking the easy stuff. Get it out quickly, get it out of your hands so that you don't take a beating in the pocket, because that's been an issue for him, is, taking these big hits and what that, how that will potentially impact him. So, certainly a lot to talk about with Utah's quarterback situation this season. All right, fellas. So we're 2 games left. What do we make of this season? How should we feel? What should we feel?
I mean, like, I think it's okay to feel disappointed. I think I see a lot of anger, and I think
it's okay to be angry.
I think so too. I think that's fine,
as long as the anger is not directed at the players. Like the players, like the
if
players
you think you're taking this hard as a fan, the players are taking it 100 times harder.
Yeah. I think that, like, I think the anger is fine. I think within some reason, I think part of me is also just like, hey, listen, like, it's just football. But also like, we've been, and people are going to hate hearing this too, but we've been rather spoiled as Utah fans. And not that these seasons are normal or have ever been the norm for Utah, but you've avoided anything like these for a long, long time. Other than the 2, 5, and 7 years to start the Pac-12, you've had 17 winning seasons or 500 season or better with Kyle Whittingham. I mean, it's pretty good for anything other than blue bloods to even approach anything quite like that. If this is the worst that it gets, I think I can live with that for a year. If it stays like this, that's going to be really bad. And so
I think that's the concern, right?
I think that's the worry.
Yeah.
And if that's the anxiety, if this is the beginning of a longer downturn, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to be concerned and upset and even potentially angry about. But I don't think that's a rational concern at this point. I think that we see things like the defense doing what the defense has normally done. We see that, the offense has had success before this season. We know it's possible. And even when the offense has been very, very hard to watch, the team hasn't been this bad. We've seen that, there are the injuries that this team is dealing with. Those things are all real and compounding into this kind of whole nightmare of a season. I think that law of averages suggests that those can't all happen really next year, that your defense will continue to be probably reliable, that your offense is probably on the bad side. You hear the term regressing to the mean. I think this is it's probably going to progress to the mean. Back we're way below the average expected offense from Utah football right now. Yep. And I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing on special teams, even the last couple games, are
tough.
Frankly,
man, that's brutal.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it too, is it feels like 2 phases of the game you're losing right now. And so much of on that side, I think, like, so much of special teams is effort. And
it's culture.
It's really hard to get out there and do your job every single time on that when you're on a 6-game losing streak. And like that's not a good excuse. I think that's fair to be frustrated about as a fan too, because like when I see these kick and punt returns, these are effort problems or these are discipline problems. These are guys out of their lane. They're not schemed wrong. It's just guys being where they're not supposed to be or not being where they're supposed to be. And like that's the stuff that you're like, yeah, this is what happens when you lose 6 games in a row. And so like fix the issues you've got on offense, fix your injury luck. I think this rut that you're in as a program is temporary. You don't fix those problems. If those somehow persist, you might be in for a longer down period. But this is not normal for Utah, and that should be comforting. that this is so abnormal. It would
Tyson,
be, yeah.
Sorry. No,
Nope.
I think you're spot on. Like it is abnormal. It is weird. And I think all of it brings, though it validates, some of those emotions that everybody's feeling. Tyson, 2 games left in the season, what does Utah need to focus on, to finish the season out?
I think Utah's at an inflection point right now. To kind of continue off of what Cam was saying, I think Utah's at an inflection point, and I think the biggest thing that they can focus on the last 2 games of the year is figuring out what's going to work, who's going to put the effort in, and who's going to be the guys next year. I know technically Utah can still make a bowl game. And I know that would be that's a goal that Witt wants, that always has wanted, to send, the seniors off on one more game. But with the way the season's gone, like, it's kind of hard to expect that. So I think you need to identify, and I think they're starting to. We're seeing a lot of Zacharias Williams the last couple of games. So, and we saw Zipper a pretty good amount on Saturday too. So, I think identifying the guys that you're going to be looking to be the guys next year is going to be a big thing the next 2 games. And then overall as a program, you gotta, the biggest thing is nailing the offensive coordinator hire. Like, it's got to be somebody who is going, it's going to make it work. I don't think this can be a retread. Like, I don't think, like, the people clamoring for Dan Mullen. No, like, or, somebody who's been at the top and is kind of down at a lower place now. Can it work? Sure. But I think with the way college football is right now, a younger up and coming guy that brings sort of a dynamic offense, that, like, different things that are kind of evolving with how the game's going right now is the way you got to go. And that's going to be big. And then it's also going to depend on, if Witt sticks around for a couple more years, if this is the final thing that knocks him out of coaching, like, it's like you gotta, the biggest thing is the offensive coordinator, but then again, the other thing is, like, there has to be a return to Utah's identity, and not necessarily on, like, establish a run, control the clock type thing. I mean more, Utah always has a very good to elite and physical defense, and it's a group of guys who play the game for the guy standing next to them. It kind of feels like there's a little bit less of that this year. And
I think that's a fair assessment. I will say the defense has shown, still plenty of buy-in, still plenty. You still see those culture plays.
Credit to Scally for keeping the defense as locked in as they are with how the season's going, because I would not have blamed them if they checked out 2-3 games ago.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you still see the buy-in, the culture plays on the defense side of the ball. That speaks to Morgan Scally and that coaching staff. They could still, do more to get more out of that unit. But yeah, I think, with that offensive coordinator position, I've said this before, but Morgan Scally needs to have a pretty prominent voice in that decision, just because he is the head coach in waiting and needs to be, involved pretty heavily in that process, because, it's decent chance that, he's going to be the head coach with that same offensive coordinator. So, lots of things to figure out. And this is more big picture stuff, as we get down to the final 2 games of the season now, but Utah has plenty to figure out, over the next couple weeks and into the next couple months. I do think we're heading to I think we're in a situation where I think Utah's going to be hitting the reset button, in terms of the roster. They'll have a core of guys, pretty decent number, I don't know, 40 guys that they will, do all that they can to hold on to, but you're going to flip a lot of this roster. And They need to get guys in that help them promote their culture, help them reestablish and rebuild their culture. I just think, things kind of got away from them, and it's unfortunate because, I do think, with Cam Rising, right? You bring him back this season. You want to build around him because you know what kind of talent he is, you know what kind of quarterback he is. But that ultimately was, I think, the biggest issue this season was that they built the entire offense around one player, and that one player is no longer able to execute that offense within that offense. And so now you have a lot of guys with strengths that are suited to that quarterback, but not the other quarterbacks on the roster. And I think that's kind of the issue this season is Utah can't forsake the overall team identity, overall team culture for one player, regardless of how good that quarterback may be. You can't throw your identity away. And I think that's what we've seen this season is, they got away from it. Utah's running game has not been what it's been in the past because, they tried to gear more towards the throw game with Cam and with the receivers they brought in. And, there was a lot of excitement around it. And I think had Cam been healthy, we're talking about a pretty potent offense. We saw flashes of it, in the two halves that we saw of Cam this season, that when he was healthy. And geez, that's unfortunate to say. But you saw it and you saw the potential. It's just, we didn't get much more than two halves. And that's pretty depressing. So, fellas, I appreciate you guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I think I saw the most depressing thing that somebody pointed out that if Utah just scored the 24 points they scored against Colorado all season, they'd be 8-2.
Yep. Pretty freaking wild. Golly, dude, just a punch to the gut.
Yeah,
24
hurts.
points in these games, and you're 8-2. Brutal.
And then I think what was it? Stat to War, Parker Fleming said something along the lines of if Utah just had a league average offense, they would pretty easily have won the Big 12.
Oh man. Just punch to the gut again. This is brutal. We're gonna have to have like a whole coming clean. Cam, any final thoughts?
Hard game, hard sport. Even a Big 12 conference that we thought would be that frankly is not very good this year. It's just hard,
Well, hey,
face a bunch of new teams, and if even just a few things don't go right, that's the difference between, like you mentioned, 8-2 and 4-6.
Yep. Colorado, Arizona State, Big 12 championship game. Anybody? Any takers?
Need our beloved Sun Devils to do some work this weekend to make that possible.
Weird things happen in the desert on Fridays, guys.
Oh, is it a Friday game again?
The Friday game, I think.
Yeah,
oh
Friday
my
game.
Gosh. Friday game after a loss on the road. Yeah. Woof.
Yeah.
To a surging team. Man.
Yeah, dude. Kenny Dillingham, dude, he's got that program trending in the right direction. We're big Kenny Dillingham fans, just big K-Dill fans over here.
I really am. I love Kenny Dillingham.
He's a good coach. So we'll see. Lots to play out over the next 2 weeks. Enjoy the uniforms this week. Should be fun to see what they've got cooked up this week. This is the Utah Blockcast signing off.